there have been several close calls, and it's making me think of that lady who called, oh my God, what's his name?
Feinbaum.
Yes. What is she?
You just a cow turd.
I'm so sorry.
Roll Tide.
Awesome. Roll Tide. Because they don't say the L. It's just row. Row Tide. Okay, lady. Well, no. I mean, I think that a lot of people came into the season thinking, well, maybe Alabama's starting to be fallible, and then they
Fallicable.
Fallible?
Fallicable.
Not fallicable. This isn't about your, I don't
Proceed.
know. Okay. And then they had lost, what was it? Like last week they had lost 3 of their last 4 games against ranked opponents. And then they almost went down to Arkansas, who's unranked. And they just are not looking as sharp as Bama fans wanted Bama to look.
Burt Bielema 0-11 in the SEC since getting there last year, which is gross. He had it very good in Wisconsin, and sometimes the grass isn't always greener. He might turn around, but hell, who knows?
Who does? And, you know, they're pigs and razorbacky and whatever.
But
I don't do the whole SEC thing.
Oh, come on. But you're part of it now.
I know.
They needed Texas, and so you're in. You are in with every single South Carolina fan and every single Georgia fan. I mean, Georgia and Florida have the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. That should be right up your alley, even though they can't call it that anymore, but whatever.
Well, it's not that I don't like these things. I just don't particularly cheer for rivals. It's anti everything that sports is in my brain.
But what if sorry, my rudeness, but is Texas A&M in the east or west of the SEC?
West.
Okay, and Mizzou's in the east?
Mizzou is, I don't know.
How'd they rework this?
I don't even remember. Why are you asking me difficult questions that I didn't prep for?
Hey, I just thought you know. You can Google it. It's fine.
No, I don't even know. I don't know little things like conferences.
So in the SEC West, say if Bama needs to beat, I don't know, XYZ opponent towards the end of the year, just so Texas A&M can have a shot at a better bowl, you're not going to cheer for Bama?
Well, I will if it works to my team's benefit.
Will you go without roll?
No.
God.
No, I will not. I will never. And you saw the manicurist. She painted my nails like crimson. And really, I almost cried. You have no idea. That upset me so much.
Well, were you going for Aggie's colors?
I was. And I picked, okay. So let me just give a little quick lesson in lady stuff.
Well, why don't you just mix it in with your black nail polish? Because you obviously have a ton of that.
Well, I do. And what's that supposed to mean? I like black nail polish.
It means that you're goth.
I'm not goth. I just like black nail polish.
No,
I don't. Well, I do like The Cure. The Cure was good. Okay, so there's a stuff that you put on your fingernails called shellac, right? And it lasts like 2, sometimes even 3 weeks. Thing is you don't put shellac on your toes because that's just crazy talk. Toenail polish lasts. So you find the toenail polish color and then you're like, okay, I want the same shade on my fingers in the fancy stuff. Well, the colors were just totally off. And so I ended up watching the Aggie game with maroon on my toes, but crimson on my fingers. And I think that's what did it. That might have been the straw. Is that illogical?
Number 13, Georgia spanks number 23, Mizzou, on the road, 34-0, despite not having Heisman frontrunner Todd Gurley, after allegations surfaced that Todd Gurley took money for autographs. And yes, this is basically a copycat of Manziel. Only difference is that happened in the offseason. This is happening in season. So the school decided to sit Gurley. It's a dumb rule, but it is a rule.
It is a rule.
It turns out the memorabilia dealer basically set up Gurley. It was kind of an entrapment situation. The university is possibly going to sue this dude. And what's your take on this whole mess?
Oh, it's a mess. And just FYI, so you know, Georgia and Missouri are both in SEC East.
Hey,
so that's important. Along with Kentucky, Florida, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Vandy. Your Vandy. Yeah, I think it's a mess. I think everyone's so worried about implications and protecting appearances that sometimes mistakes are made. But if it hadn't been a mistake and it had come out later, people would have had a cow then too. So it's almost like there's no good way to handle these situations sometimes. Is it not a conundrum?
I was kind of mad because it opened up the whole, student athletes should be paid and they'd be paid situations. And yeah, that whole conversation.
I assume you have very stringent thoughts on that.
I think they probably should receive a little something, except then how do you go about quantifying that? And yeah, people always poo-poo that these guys are getting a free education, and mostly because a lot of these student athletes, Division I student athletes, I don't want to paint with a broad brush all of them, but a lot of them don't really take their scholarship seriously. And as a person with student loans that I recently just paid off, is a nice little chunk. And yeah, there is the price tag that goes along with a education from a quality school.
Yeah, absolutely. Or even some non-quality schools that at least these guys have the chance to walk away with a degree where they may not have had that opportunity before. And so there's that. But at the same time, if you put someone who's I'll just use a situation that I know something about a little bit. Arian Foster, whose mom was off selling her engagement ring to feed them growing up. He gets a scholarship and goes to college, and he doesn't have enough money to properly even nourish himself while living on campus. And you're not allowed to work. You're allowed, but it says in the NCAA bylaws, it is strongly discouraged for student athletes to hold outside employment. What are you supposed to do? Not eat? Do swimmers not buy tampons? Do the gymnasts, not buy a leotard? I'm just saying that there are necessities in life that are not necessarily taken into account whenever you offer someone a full scholarship. And some of these people aren't getting full scholarships. They're getting partial scholarships. And so if you get a partial scholarship, you still have to pay the difference.
And a lot of these schools are year-to-year scholarships as well, even though I think the Big Ten recently went to 4-year guaranteed scholarships, which, heck, maybe they'll give them a leg up in recruiting and Big Ten will stop sucking so badly. Right.
You never know. It could. It frustrates me whenever people
it does.
No, don't pay them. Don't pay them. Well, what are they supposed to do? Let's just be real.
And the hypocrisy of these universities making so much, but so unwilling and hiding behind the whole student athlete thing. When athletes want a very small in the grand scheme of things, sliver of that pie. And it's just disgusting. And I was looking on the Georgia Bulldogs merchandise, their Georgia Shop website, and there is no longer a number 3 Georgia football jersey available. It was for a long, long time until Jay Billis probably called them out again, and it is
that's crazy. That's crazy.
I really don't see an issue if they went to an Olympic model, where if you have enough cachet and prestige with your on-field accomplishments where you can't get a memorabilia deal like this, a small sort of sponsorship, or heck, maybe if you're a superstar like Johnny Manziel was last year, you get a Subway ad while you're in college. I really don't see why there would be that big of a harm in it. Why would it be so harmful?
Yeah. Right. And and if it was something to where they just paid for basic necessities, if they had like a commissary where they could buy things that, hygiene things, or an allotment at on-campus dining facilities, things like that. Just not that they're not taking well care.
Get Shabazz Napier some food, man.
Yeah. Don't let these guys starve. I'm not saying they're starving. I'm sure that's quite an exaggeration in most of the cases. But why worry about where your next meal is coming from whenever you're making millions for a university?
And, just to be devil's advocate on the whole starving thing, I've been on campus. I've lived on campus. I've been a part of a university. If you have access to an all-you-can-eat buffet 3 times a day, and athletes have access to training tables as well, don't tell me you're starving. Come on.
All right, fair enough.
And I do think some of it is a stretch, but I think that's very outlierish and very convenient to arguments. But I feel like I'm arguing both sides of the fence because I do actually kind of see both sides, that students aren't necessarily starving and they should also be paid, because the whole argument of them not getting these small sort of endorsement things would be like, well, the booster Jim Bob of Alabama down at Jim Bob Chevrolet, he's just going to give every athlete coming in Jim Bob Chevrolet decals and sponsorships.
Right. I mean, yeah, it would definitely need to be worked out by people who are in a legal position to know about the rules and regulations and what would work and what wouldn't. I don't think that it's a stretch to have to ask, these multi-million-dollar programs to ensure every player is taken care of. That's all.
Yeah. You keep the laborers happy. Keep written that checks.
Exactly.
Keep building those buildings in your name, college presidents.
Exactly. So, I don't know.
All right. Well, back to football and back off of our little soapbox. Jim Bob, Alabama booster. Oh, sorry, before we do real quick, one of the things that does make college football so endearing and entertaining to me is the whole booster and the whole sliminess of the behind it, because I actually don't find it slimy. I find it very entertaining that we all try to pretend that, no, kids don't get paid to go to a certain school, and parents don't get taken care of if their kid commits to this one school or not. But we all know it happens, and I'm very entertained by the whole thing. Now, I do think there is a line, like Reggie Bush's parents living rent-free in that nice house, Cam Newton allegedly getting offered 230 dimes to go to Mississippi State, even though they're doing pretty okay. I think that's a little far, but the whole $100 handshakes from boosters, Luther Campbell with Miami when they were rolling, buying guys drinks, buying guys meals, buying guys clothes. I think that is all very entertaining. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that it gets out of hand quick if you let it go and allow
Trans A&M.
Well, that too. Okay, thanks for the reminder. And it even with boundaries, people ignore the boundaries. So you can call it illegal and people will still break those rules, but maybe it stops some people. I don't exactly know what the percent of rule breakage going on is happening in that regard. Enough to argue either way, to be honest.
So let that sink in. There are boundaries, but people will break those boundaries. And that's Claire's talk about her sex life. On to Heisman Watch. My money is still on Dak Prescott, even though Mike Mariota could definitely sneak back into this thing, especially after that win over UCLA. What say you?
I'm kind of with you. I mean, Dak Prescott was pretty darn good this season. Yeah, he's
Diet
really
Tebow.
good. Ugh.
Diet Tebow.
But Mariota, his QB rating is woo. Yeah, I mean, what is he? He's at like a 70% completion percentage. I mean, that's not kind of crazy talk, right?
That's minorly okay.
Minorly. It's a little bit okay. Not the best okay, but minorly. It's just Mariota does it. They both do it in volume, and Dak Prescott has that rushing ability, and Mariota has some too. Not to Prescott's degree, but they're like tied with touchdowns overall. Their yardage is really close. I don't know, man. I mean, it's too soon to call it, but those two are definitely the front runners.
Yeah, I think Prescott is kind of more like that Cam Newton type, a big body guy who can run if you need to. And Mariota is, I think, what people wanted RG3 to be.
I hope so.
Just a guy who can throw downfield, has the ability to take off when he needs to, but is smart about it.
Yeah.
And, gets down after he gobbles up whatever he can get instead of trying to helicopter Haloti Nada for another half yard.
Very good point.
Yeah. And my dark horse, Rakeem.
Yeah, no, I think, definitely.
Okay.
Who? Oh, your Marshall guy.
My dark horse, Rakeem Cato, still has